This Pioneer Field Agronomist Scott Eversgerd with this week's weekly agronomy update. And looking at a lot of cornfields last week, starting to see what we're pretty confident is Holcus leaf spot. Actually, as you're out in this field looking at the fields, kind of looks like almost gramoxone drift. One sure way to differentiate between maybe gramoxone or a chemical drift and what is Holcus is really look at the borders of the field. Look in the grassy area, look at any trees, look at any honeysuckle, maybe in a fence row, and see if you're seeing any spotting on those plants as well. If you are not, there's a good chance what you're experiencing in the field is Holcus leaf spot. If you are seeing obviously spotting as a drift may come into the field from one side or something, and there's a pretty good chance it may be a chemical drift scenario. The other thing to think about is Holcus is a bacteria. It is not a fungus. So that means spraying a fungicide will not do anything to control it. What we do is expect is the corn will grow right out of the Holcus. We've seen it affect corn the last couple of years at these smaller stages, and within a couple of weeks, once the corn continues to put out new leaves, really does not have any effect on the final yield. With the heat we're now getting, we're also seeing some what we're calling growth wrapping in corn. This is kind of when corn finally gets to that stage, it's developed a good root system, it's grabbed a hold of some nitrogen, it gets a little bit of sunshine and heat, and the corn just takes off and grows. It kind of enters that grand growth stage. And what you get is the corn growing so fast that the leaves maybe aren't releasing quick enough, and you get a little bit of growth wrapping, or kind of looks like an onion effect in the field. Every condition we've seen in the past, the corn grows out of this and continues to develop normally. But with that quick development, also be looking at your herbicide applications from a post-app standpoint, is that this corn is developing very quickly. You're looking at putting a new leaf out every 3 to 5 days. So as you're reading labels and looking at those growth stages, whether it's a V3, V5, V7, whatever label of the product you're using may have a restriction on it, be looking at that very closely as this corn continues to grow very, very fast. From a soybean standpoint, a lot of soybeans just now going in the ground, being planted, bean emergence so far, with the exception of the Mother's Day weekend where we had some beans planted and got pounded in pretty good. Bean emergence looks pretty good on some stuff that got snuck in here about a week ago. So continue to plant beans, get them in the ground. The only thing, again, as the soils warm up and we're getting warmer temperatures, they're going to come out of the ground pretty fast. So as you're looking at some of the PPO chemistry that requires the beans be sprayed before emergence, make sure you're getting those applications on before any part of that plant's breaking through the ground. And lastly, on wheat, it looks like the wheat crop's definitely starting to develop pretty quickly. Definitely seeing it lose that dark green color and start heading into maturity. If I had to guess, we're probably 2 to 3 weeks out on a lot of wheat harvest. One thing I've definitely seen as the storms have rolled through here as of late with the heavier winds and a little bit of rain with it, what is a great time to evaluate your nitrogen program. So as you pull into a field and you see a field of wheat that's perfectly standing from one end to the other, what you could probably evaluate from that is you probably shorted that field just a little bit on nitrogen. If you pull into that same field and you see about maybe 5, as high as maybe just 10% of that field swirled up a little bit or leaning, that you probably hit the sweet spot on nitrogen on that field. So that'd be definitely something to put in your memory bank as you think about next year in evaluating where you want to be on your nitrogen program in February, March of next year. So a great time to evaluate that as well. From a head scab perspective, seeing a little bit show up, but the severity does not seem to be what we've seen the last couple of years. We'll know more here by the end of this week how much is actually going to develop from the infection period we had. But the indications as of right now, it looks like a little less. Hopefully that doesn't change in the next 5 to 6 days. As always, if you have any further questions, please give your Pioneer sales rep a call. Thanks.